Kethevane Gorjestani now here on set. Reza was talking there, Kethevane, about trust in Donald Trump amongst Iranians. What about trust in Donald Trump amongst Americans? And notably, of course, his America First base viewing. How are they viewing the latest situation?
Well, look, there's increasing criticism for at least part of the MAGA movement, the sort of isolationist wing of the MAGA movement. I was talking earlier about the sort of confusion over the narrative of this war. And Matt Walsh, who's one of the prominent conservative podcasters, posted about this on Sunday, so very early on, talking about the fact that the administration was saying that they killed the whole Iranian regime, but this was not a regime change war. They obliterated the nuclear program, but we had to do this because of the nuclear program. Iran was not planning an attack, but maybe they were planning an attack. So he's pointing to the conflict in the different narratives of the Trump administration. And just recently, after those comments by Marco Rubio hinting that maybe Israel pushed the Americans to act in Iran, he said he's flat out telling us that we're at war with Iran because Israel forced our hand. And the focus on Israel's role and Israel's influence on Donald Trump when it comes to the war in Iran is sort of crystallizing the criticism from that part of the MAGA movement, because not only are they isolationists, but they're also often at the same time pretty anti-Israel, much different than the rest of the Republican Party. So you had the likes of Tucker Carlson, for example, saying, it's hard to say this, but the U.S. did not make this decision. Benjamin Netanyahu did, talking about the Prime Minister of Israel. Megyn Kelly, another prominent voice in MAGA world, she said about those service members, the American troops who died, she said they died for Iran or for Israel, not for the United States. Pretty harsh words there. And you had, of course, the former representative, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was once a staunch supporter of Donald Trump, but one of the things that she is also is a deep ideologue in the isolationism of the MAGA movement. And she said, "Make America Great Again" was supposed to be America first, not Israel first. So you're really seeing that this criticism is mounting from some of those prominent voices. Obviously, they are not the majority. If you watch Fox News, for example, or Newsmax, you have the hawks that are celebrating what Donald Trump is doing. But there is this this fringe of the MAGA movement that is showing that this is not what they voted for, and they're increasingly vocal about that criticism.
Kethevane, we also have the first primaries taking place ahead of the midterm elections, of course, that everyone's looking towards now. I mean, could the war in Iran be some kind of political liability for Republicans? Is it likely to help their cause or hinder it?
Well, look, there is a little bit of a worry among some in Trump world, and especially a lot of the Republicans, that this might play out not in their favor. First of all, there are just recent polls, including one Reuters Ipsos poll that shows that just 27% of Americans approve of these strikes on Iran, 43% disapprove, and the rest are still undecided on how they see these strikes. But for weeks now, what Donald Trump's advisors have been trying to do, and what a lot of Republicans have been pushing him to do, is focus on domestic issues, especially the economy, especially affordability. They were trying to make that pivot. And now with the war in Iran, this is definitely not going to happen. And as much as foreign policy victories don't necessarily help in an election in the United States, especially not in the midterm, a foreign quagmire that could actually weigh Donald Trump down and weigh his supporters down. And there are two main reasons for that, and two questions to look at going forward as we enter really deeply into this midterm year. One is what I was talking about, this wing of the MAGA movement that is against foreign interventions. This is something that they campaigned on, that they promised their voters, and now these voters are saying, well, you sort of lied to us because you're doing exactly what we didn't want you to do. The other big question is the slow burn effect. Will that happen? Will that not happen? Several elements to this. How long does this conflict last? If it lasts a couple of weeks, maybe it won't have that much of an impact. How bad will Iran's retaliation be? Will they continue to strike American targets, American interests in the region? That could keep it in the news. How many U.S. casualties? We're at 6 right now. Does that continue? That could have an impact. And going back to affordability, the price of gas. Will the situation in the Middle East have an impact on the price of gas over time leading into the midterm elections in November? So really, the question is going to be, if this drags on, that could be a real problem for the Republicans. If it doesn't, they might be able to play this as a victory for Donald Trump being the strongman that he is. But that will be a very different situation. We'll have to wait maybe a few months to see where this story goes and how much of an impact it will have.